Hello and welcome to our webinar that dives into the topic of link relevancy, as well as discussing relevancy today and how it's viewed throughout the industry. We're also going to be giving you insight into our brand new Relevancy Tool. We're going to be showing you how the tool is going to work, how it can help improve your workflows and processes, and for those that stick around to the end, we're going to explain how you can get your hands on the tool at a bit of a discounted rate. So diving straight into it. I'm Mark McMicken. I'm the Head of Digital PR here at NOVOS. I've been working here for around 3 years, and throughout that time relevancy's very much been a hot topic of conversation for us, and that kind of aligns with the time that we've spent on creating this new tool. I'd also like to introduce Ellie Morgan. Ellie's one of our brilliant digital PR managers. Ellie is a huge advocate of all things relevancy, and since she's joined the agency just under a year ago, she's given us some fantastic insight to her opinions on relevancy. She's given us support on how we can improve the tool, make the tool better, and she's been a huge help and a huge support in getting the tool of where it is today. So in terms of today, what we're going to talk about, we are going to start off by talking about quality over quantity when it comes to links. So we're going to be looking at how the industry views that, and giving our kind of view of how we kind of view the quality over quantity discussion. We're also going to look at the why behind why we've invested so much time and so much of our time into creating this tool. We're also going to look at 3 ways in which you can use the tool day to day. So our team have been using the tool for over 6 months now, so we've got some great insight into how it can improve the day-to-day ways in which you operate your team. We can talk about how it can improve reporting, it can improve how you build media lists for PR. So we'll give some really interesting insight on how you can do that day to day. We're also going to finish off by looking at who could use this tool. So whether you're a freelancer, whether you're an agency, whether you're working for a brand in-house, we're going to talk about the types of people that we feel could benefit from the tool. And we'll also, as I mentioned before, going to give an opportunity give an understanding how you can get a hold and get your hands on the tool.
So quality over quantity is a conversation that is very prominent in the SEO industry. And I would say that this is something that Google's been talking about for quite a long time, but most marketers fully understand now. But how do you know exactly what quality means for a backlink? A quality backlink profile should consist of both high authority domains and relevant domains, and of course those that sit in between both, which are of course our ideal. Currently, there's quite a lot of authority metrics out there that people use to check if a domain is high authority. Example, Moz's DA, Ahrefs DR. I would say that those are the 2 most popular, but a lot of places might even use 1 or 2 of these to check that their domains are authoritative. But what about relevance? How do I know if my backlink is relevant? You probably don't, and you're probably still going off opinion.
So Google has been talking about relevancy for a very long time. For at least kind of over the last 10 years, it's been referencing relevancy directly. But I think even more so than that, even further back, it's been implying relevancy as a kind of key ranking factor for a very long time. I think the biggest challenge we have with respects to relevancy, like from an SEO or specifically a link building perspective, is how to quantify relevancy. I think this is something that it's as Ellie touched on, it's more a matter of opinion, it's more of a gut feel, which can only kind of take it so far. I think something that we found, and certainly I've found over the years in terms of relevancy, is it becomes an issue if you're reporting either back to a client or reporting back to a manager who's maybe a bit kind of fixated with metrics such as DA from Moz or DR from Ahrefs. They get fixated on a site's worth or link's worth based on the authority number. So if a site's, if it's not over DA 60s, it may not be the best sort of link. Whereas we know that relevant links can provide genuine impact from an organic perspective, but it's just really difficult to quantify that when you're speaking to someone, when you're reporting to somebody. So what we have kind of looked to do is really try to quantify what relevancy means, because we feel that up until now, no one's able to do that really succinctly. This is a familiar message to many. You may have built a link that you know of as kind of a huge amount of relevance to the domain that you're working on, but either the client or your manager is kind of fixated with the authority from authority score from say Moz or Ahrefs. That can be quite a tricky conversation and be quite painful, because you know that your gut feel, your hunch is that it offers a massive amount of relevancy, which you know can offer big things in terms of improvements to organic performance. But because you can't quantify that feeling, it's a difficult conversation to kind of have. But what we felt was, what if you could quantify that, and what if you did have a quantifiable metric that give you the opportunity to show your boss or show the client that the link did offer a decent amount of value. And that's where the relevancy score comes in. So in this example here, we may have built a link on a site that offered a low domain rating, which, again, anecdotally, someone might think doesn't offer a huge amount of value. But when you bring the relevancy into it and you're able to quantify that relevancy more so than just a gut feel, it just gives something back to the client or someone who you're reporting into, that it's going to be a link that's going to offer genuine impact, and it's going to ultimately help with your organic performance.
So let's put this into practice. Say that you are a company called Gardener's Dream who sell mainly gardening products. Which of these domains would you aim for? You might have a hunch on some of them, or a lot of the time people will rely on an authority metric to give them an idea of which ones are of quality. But we know that that only covers one half of a quality domain or a backlink profile if you're wanting to look at authority and relevance. And that's where the relevance metric would come in. You would be able to look beyond an authority metric like DA and DR. And it might change your priority list. It might make it longer. It might show you some domains that are of high relevance and low authority that you might have once, discarded because it was low on DA or DR if you use that as your main metric. And it also might show which ones are the absolute best ones to go after because they're both high authority and high relevance. So how would this look on that initial graph that we looked at? We can now get a better understanding of what this could look like in practice. So we know that Financial Times is of course a high authority domain, but is it really relevant to gardening? Not really, and that's why it didn't return a super high score. That's not to say it's not a bad domain. I think within context it's fine to have a backlink profile like this that has high authority domains, relevant domains, and of course prioritising those in the middle. And that's kind of what we're showing here, and how it can be really helpful to show, whether it's your boss or whether it's a client, where the links that you've built fit on a quality backlink profile.
So why have we invested so much time into the topic of relevancy? As I alluded to a few slides ago, we've kind of spent the best part of 3 years discussing relevancy internally, and I think that kind of goes for the entire industry as well. But why we've looked to create a tool, I guess this was born out of the fact that as a whole, I think as an industry we've struggled to understand relevancy. I think, again, we talked a few slides ago about quantifying relevancy, and we just felt that nobody was really doing enough about that, and we wanted to make sure that there was something that both we and the industry could have to be able to really truly quantify something that I think everybody agrees is really important, and the most important thing Google tells us is important. I guess the last 3 years has been a journey of a lot of things, but for us it's been about innovative thinking, and it's been about a lot of testing as well. But I think our goal was to kind of create something that was going to be impactful, again, for us and then for the industry, and something meaningful as well. And I think we've got to a point today where we feel that we definitely have that with a tool that we've created. In terms of creating the tool, what was always going to be really important for us was the factors that we considered to get to a relevancy score for links that we were building. It became kind of clear through our testing and through our thinking, and I guess just the learnings that we took in place over the last 3 years, is that the things that we were going to consider were important, and we kind of boiled it down to 4 key considerations. So the things that we look at are the kind of URL structure of the site. We also look at the organic keywords of the domain, the on-page content as well, and then using AI, we also look at how the site is categorized. In terms of how we interpret the results that we produce to the relevancy score, so again, talking about previous metric scores like MOSDA or Ahrefs DR, this is not an authority metric of the full domain. What our tool does is it drills down on page level as well. So a link that's built to a homepage, if it was built to a deeper in the domain, it would have a different relevancy score, because we look at it's a page by page relevancy tool rather than just a full domain, as other tools maybe are. We're not comparing domains, but we're actually analysing the site that you're linking to, which is really important. And lastly as well, We do have a lot of sites that are extremely relevant to the domains that we're building links on. So I think unlike other kind of authority scores, what the relevancy tool does bring up is a lot of kind of actually sites that are perfectly aligned. So if you're a fashion brand and you land directly on a fashion domain or fashion publication, the relevancy tool will kind of give a score that really reflects that, so it perfectly aligns in terms of relevancy. And we actually see scores of 100, maybe more so than you would with other tools. That's not to say it's obviously every score, but it's something that does feature and it is a bit different to other tools that are kind of scoring on authority. And yeah, what we've learned over the last 3 years, it's about understanding which websites matter most to your brand and to your key target category pages. So when we think about creating our digital PR strategies and we think about where we're going to build links, we know that from experience that building links on relevant domains to like category pages to product pages, those are the links that have the biggest impact from an organic perspective. And being able to understand the relevancy of sites really does help us understand which websites are going to have the biggest impact to our the clients that we have. And ultimately, again, a strong list of relevant sites makes it easier to build links that drive real results. So just kind of reinforcing what I've said there. We know that, relevant links that we're able to build deeper to the site. We know they're going to have true results and they're going to drive the best kind of improvements to organic performance.
And on this, we understand that it might be quite hard to visualize that, so we wanted to give another theory example of what this could look like. So let's say you're John Lewis and you're specifically looking at the electricals section of this website. So we obviously know that John Lewis sell a vast majority of products, and so specifically we are targeting electricals as a category. We would be able to use this tool a various number of ways. The first one being to kind of source relevant subsections of high authority sites. So for example, we would want to get on The Guardian Technology when we are, creating content that is around technology, rather than say getting on the sports section of The Guardian. What's nice about this is obviously if we were looking at authority metric, it would return 93 for both of these subsections because it's looking at, the overall domain. But if we were to look at relevance on a page by page basis, we would know that getting on the sports section is going to return a score of about 47, whereas relevancy for technology would be slightly higher at 64, which just allows you to understand it is showing how it's crucial to get on the right sections of websites, which I think is something that people are starting to do now, but it's nice to have the backing behind it, which we discussed earlier, if you are having conversations that are tricky about understanding the why behind it. Then the second benefit is finding those high authority and high relevance domains for your category. So for example, TechCrunch, Wired, they're massive tech publications. They've got really high DR, but it's also quite nice to see which ones score better than the other. They're all in the 90s, but it's nice to see that TechCrunch is the highest of the lot, so we can kind of say that is the number one of all three. Obviously all three are super relevant, but it's quite nice to rank between it rather than just giving your client or your boss a bunch of really highly authoritative, highly relevant domains, in terms of potentially you're presenting it as logos or a links. This way you can say actually this is them ranked in terms of relevancy because we've got that score. And then the third benefit is sourcing those low authority but really highly relevant domains that are still going to show Google that you are an expert within this field. They're still really important links to have, and this is a great way to show those that you're trying to reassure that these links are still crucial, because they might have low DRs, we're looking at 30s and 40s here, but the relevancies are in the 90s, they're really important to have. So now we're going to talk about the 3 ways that we would use the metric day to day. So of course the first one being we would input a link that we've just built and we would want to have a look at what the relevancy score was. This can then be put across into a link tracker if you are agency side, or send it into a channel if you're internal, whatever that may be. Of course the main thing that everyone understands would be having a look at link by link what the metric returns. Then the next way that we would use it is for reporting. So we would have a look at links over time, how many of those are relevant, and then also on a campaign by campaign basis, so which campaigns return the most relevant links, and then we can kind of learn from that going forward. We could report potentially since we've started working with you or over the last 6 months, like this slide says, 38% of the links that we built had a relevancy score between 75 to 100, and 32% of the links that we built, were between 50 to 75. Still of relevance, but maybe not super relevant. And I think that's really important for those, whether it's boss or client, to see. And then the final way that we would use this is for refining our target lists. Technically, this would be like at the beginning. It's like a research tactic, and we would do a classic backlink gap analysis, link intersect. I know that there's various terms for that in the industry, but we're basically having a look at where we need to build links, and then a lot of the time we would, get an authority metric in there, double check that there's no domains of really low authority that we don't want to go after, and a lot of the time we would remove those out because they're not really a target for us. But it might be that you're removing, low authority sites that are really highly relevant. That's not us saying, you need to go for a site that's like a 10 on like a domain rating, but there might be some that are like 30s, 40s and 50s, like this slide shows, that are actually really, really relevant. So we would encourage using the relevancy score as well to double check that you're not excluding targets that actually could be really beneficial for your backlink profile.
And just moving on to how we categorise these scores. So we break it down into kind of four categories. So we look at low relevance, slightly relevant, relevant, and highly relevant. And Ellie's already kind of give examples of how you can kind of break that down in terms of reporting. But that's how we kind of categorise the relevancy score. For in terms of reporting. And then just moving on to kind of who should use it, how you could use it, and the investment involved in the tool. Again, we've done a lot of research in terms of speaking to people in the industry, and we think that it's a tool that can work for a lot of different people. Whether you are someone working in PR, digital PR, working in SEO, and this could be anything from if you work in the agency side, if you're a freelancer, if you're working in-house for a brand. We think there's a massive benefit to have for anybody working kind of all in that space. I think relevancy obviously doesn't necessarily just have to be, necessarily for link building. I think anyone who works in the brand side of things, it's always good to understand how relevant a domain is, even if we're not just thinking about pure links. And then in terms of the options available, we've got everything from kind of a starter package, which again mentioned things like freelancers, and right the way up to kind of agency size. I think fairly typical in terms of pricing for these sort of tools. But what we want to do is we want this to be accessible to people, and we feel that with the packages that we've built, we've been able to hopefully do that. And as I kind of said at the start, there's an option for how you get your hands on the tool. We'll follow up with everybody who's kind of attended today. We share kind of the information of the tool a bit further, and also if you wanted to sign up for the tool, we're happy to give kind of 20% off the first 3 months that you were to use the tool as well. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you.